Hello, everyone. Welcome to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, coming to you from the Ventura Cigar Company studio. And with me today is Jiunn Liu and John McTavish. How you guys doing?
Not bad for a Monday.
Hello, my friends.
So today we are talking about the David P. Ehrlich PLM Series Toro. Cigar is 6-inch by 50 ring gauge. Comes out of the Tabacalera La Alianza factory in the Dominican Republic. Wrapper is Mexican San Andres Maduro. Binders from Nicaragua. Filler is from Nicaragua and the Dominican Republic. It is blended by Mike Bellady and Ernesto Perez Carrillo. Price point is $11.20, and the cigar was released in June of 2018. So with all that out of the way, June, what was your smoking experience like?
My smoking experience is pretty similar throughout the whole thing. So I got a lot of earthiness, got a lot of minerals, leather, soil, dirt kind of a component are the main notes kind of that I got. But, you know, especially in the first third, surrounding that, I got some nice citrus notes out of it. And it helped a little bit when it came to breaking up that earthiness. When I retrohaled, that citrus note came out that much more, which was really a good addition to the cigar. Finish, medium length, that same leather, soil, dirt component. Strength and body medium to start out, and kind of starting to get to that medium full mark by the end of the cigar. So yeah, I mean, it was mainly one of those Mexican San Andreas experiences where it was predominantly earth driven. In terms of construction, I rated the burn to be very good. Only let down with some flakiness in the ash, and then that caused a couple of minor touch ups. But other than that, no complaints. I had some issues with the draw. I mean, I still rated it good, but it was it was a bit too tight for my liking. But it wasn't like super annoying, which is why I said it was still good. But overall, that was my overall.
How about you, John? What your smoking experience like?
I would agree with June on a bunch of things. I think the cigar was pretty consistent in terms of the flavor profile from start to finish. You didn't really see a lot of third change-ups. I got the citrus in the first third, although I was getting it on the post draw, and there was definitely leather on the post draw. So the citrus and leather were kind of playing off of each other. There's no question this is Mexican San Andreas because that cocoa is so prevalent. I was getting a little bit of bitter cedar to start out with, and then as it sort of progressed, the cocoa built up, brought some spices with it, and they kind of played off of each other. So maybe that's, June's kind of referring that to minerality. But again, I didn't really get any earthiness, which was kind of interesting. And then the retrohale kind of settled into this creamy cocoa spices and then trailing citrus, which was enjoyable for me. Middle third, more of the same, a little bit of hint of pepper, sweet cedar, again citrus, although the overall intensity of the flavors across the board kind of fell down from where they were in the first third. Cocoa kind of came back about halfway through the cigar, really took over the palate, which was enjoyable for me. And then I would say sort of towards the end of the middle third, the overall strength of the cigar kind of hit in, like it's at a medium, just over medium overall strength. And then the last third, toasted cedar, spices. So again, very consistent throughout. In terms of burning construction, I rated it as very good. The burn to start out with was razor sharp. Unfortunately, kind of canoed a little bit at the halfway point. I kind of let it go because I wanted to see if it was going to self-correct, and it did. And then from then on, it was great. So I did have to dock it for the canoeing. But the ash was holding on well at 1.5-inch increments. No problems there. And then in terms of draw, it was perfect. Just the right amount of resistance. What was your smoking experience like, Aaron?
When the cigar started, it had such a great combination of cinnamon and wood. I mean, the flavors were so intertwined; it was hard to kind of tell them apart. But it was just a really great combination. About a half-inch in, some cream kind of joined in, and that cinnamon morphed into more of a black pepper, and that was still a nice combination, but not as good as the cinnamon was up front. About an inch in, kind of a subtle stone fruit sweetness was present in the background. Retrohale was kind of a musty wood with a light baking spice to it. As the first was wrapping up, some mustiness kind of joins the profile, and that's kind of what binds the wood and the black peppers. The cream and the subtle sweetness fade away from the profile. Strength was right at medium. Second, third, wood gains a little char up front, while the mustiness black pepper are not very far behind. Half-inch in, black pepper kind of pretty faint. Charred wood mustiness up front. About an inch in, profile becomes a little chalky. Char leaves the wood. Retrohale is very similar profile. as a second third is coming to a close, that chalkiness kind of wavers in how much it affects the profile, but the wood and the mustiness remain constant there. A little bit of a mild baking spice that rejoins in the background, and strength remains at the medium mark. In the final third, a little bit of char returns to the wood, chalky and musty notes kind of slightly behind that. About a half inch in, that chalky and musty notes raise up to become even with the wood. Char drops out from the profile. About an inch in, cigar warms up a little bit. That mintiness kind of joins in, knocks out the chalkiness. Wood mustiness still remain there. Retrohale is still just a musty wood note. And strength bumped up slightly above medium in that final third. In regards to the burn, slightly wavy, didn't need any attention though. Ash held on in inch and a half increments, so it was very good. In regards to the draw, just a little bit tighter than I prefer, but there's no issues with that. I didn't have to baby it or anything like that. So, Jiunn, what were your overall thoughts on this cigar?
I thought it was a decently good cigar. At times I felt like it was a bit too earthy for me, especially for me. Mexican San Andreas could be a bit too earthy, like too soil driven, too mineral driven, and that leather component to it. But the cigar overall did a pretty good job of countering that with that citrus note. But it was like really close. Sometimes I was kind of like, some draws I was like, well, it's okay. Some draws I was like, oh, okay, thank God the citrus is there to balance out that earthiness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I would smoke it again, but certainly not one of my favorite Mexican San Andreas representations out there. But it's good to be happy to smoke again. So,
how about you, John? What were your overall thoughts?
This is definitely right in my wheelhouse. As I was saying, kind of when we're talking about the flavor profile, I think too many times a lot of people try to do too much with Mexican San Andreas, and it ends up ruining the experience for me. And I think what was nice here is it let the wrapper and tobacco kind of speak for itself without trying to overwhelm it with filler. So, I don't think this was overwhelming in terms of flavor complexity, but it was extremely enjoyable and very consistent from start to finish. And I think there's something to be said about cigars that can be very consistent, because so often we'll have something in the first third's really good, second third's not good, or it's average, and then the last third's crappy. And here, you've got a cigar where you start out, and what you got at the, basically what you got at the start of the smoking experience is how you finish up. And for me, there's something to be said for that. What about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the cigar started out really well. I mean, that wood and cinnamon note was really great. I mean, I wish I could have had a cigar full of that. But, even when that cinnamon morphed into more black pepper, it was still a good flavor profile. But then after that, I get some of that chalkiness that I kind of get with some Maduros, and then that kind of just doesn't jive with my palate. I don't know what that is or what causes that kind of sensation, but kind of got chalky in that second third, and wood musty focused in the final third. I mean, construction is really good. Doesn't require any attention. I thought it was fairly average after that first third. Kind of lost my attention. That chalky note kind of just puts a blanket over a lot of the flavors and things like that. So it just wasn't something that made me want to rush back to smoke another one. Getting into the scores, we'll start from the top. John, you gave it a 7.07. Jiunn, you were next at 6.77, and then I had a 5.85. So, John, how do you think that matched up with your experience?
That makes sense to me. I enjoyed this when we had the chance to smoke it in Vegas, and I hadn't had the chance to smoke these before, so I was really looking forward to sitting down and analyzing it properly. And 7 is where kind of I think this would be. This is something I would smoke, not necessarily on the regular, but this is something I would have in my humidor and reach to, and I'm looking for what I like in a San Andreas experience.
Sure. How about you, Jiunn, at 6.77?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I see something in like the upper sixes for me within this year, and even perhaps the last couple of years, it's something that I would enjoy again, but it's nothing that's going to be, topping any like list for me this year.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I thought it was slightly above average profile for flavor, just from what I got from that first third, but otherwise it was average the rest of the way. Really good construction, but overall it was average, so that's kind of where it gets. I mean, it's the high 5, so you get a little bit of a bump in that first third. I'd be interested in smoking it again just to see if I get that same experience, or I can get some of those flavors to last longer. If I could dodge that chalkiness, it would be something that I kind of go back to. Any other final thoughts on this cigar from you guys?
Who is this David P. Ehrlich, by the way?
This is Mike Bellady with MLB Cigar Ventures.
No, but who is?
So that was a shop in Boston for a really long time, and it was one of the shops that I think when Mike Bellady first got into cigars, he would go pick up cigars for his coworkers, and that would be the shop he'd go into. So I think it's kind of like an homage to this really old tobacconist in the Boston area.
Yeah, because the band and all that stuff looks like what's the word, like a gentleman's band.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it looks like a brand of 40 or 50 years ago, which is kind of classy.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that image is actually the sign that was outside the shop, but the image had the guy smoking a pipe. So they just modified the picture to take the pipe out and put a cigar in. So that's kind of where that goes.
That makes complete sense.
If I'm recalling my storytelling from Mike Bellady correctly. But.
Yeah, no, I even Googled this and I was like, all I see is a bunch of stuff that says MLB Ventures. So I was like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's and I want to say that Barry McDonald, who is I think his head of sales or something like that, I think maybe his family owned the shop at some point. So I think there's a tie-in to that as well. And this one was supposed to be that the PLM series, I think, is the initials of his father or grandfather. So I think that's why this is kind of more related to Barry's side as well.
Cool.
So, but look it all up to make sure it's verified. I could just be talking out of my ass. But
I mean, if you were doing it with great confidence because I believed everyone.
Like, this is what it is. That's legitimate.
Yeah, there you go. So that's that. Any other final thoughts?
Nope.
All right. Well, if you're just catching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us. But also check out the full written review on the website, developingpalates.com. Follow us on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google+. And you can catch all of our review recaps on podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, and Podbean. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Adios, amigo.